And I just finished Arm of the Sphinx by Josiah Bancroft. I want to give you a quick update on my thoughts on this immediately following the book, which was just now. I was not a fan of this book, unfortunately. I give this book 2 out of 5 stars. Um, I thought that it really went downhill significantly from the last book in the series, which was Senlin Ascends, a book that I quite liked. I gave that 4 stars, and it, I I really did like the first book in the series. I thought that it was a very promising start. I love the concept of the book. This idea that there is this amazing tower that is like the single biggest wonder of the world, that is seemingly infinitely large, and a man's attempt at working slowly up through this tower to rescue his wife. It's a nice plot because you get this really fantastical element of episodic, where every floor that this man goes up is entirely unique. The first book was split up into I think 3 or 4 main parts, and each floor he went up was very different. It felt fresh, and it was very entertaining. Unfortunately, in the first book, the last floor that he was on was the weakest of the whole book, and I hate to see a book that finishes weak, and that's kind of what prevented that book from really rising up into that 5 star range. But this book, Arm of the Sphinx, started up where that last book went off. And so the first, 100 or so pages of this book was really just an extension of that ending. And I didn't like that ending. So I didn't like where this book started. But as the book went on, I liked it less and less. It didn't have that episodic feel to it anymore. The cast of characters has greatly expanded. In the first book, it was really just about Senlin trying to get his wife, and there's a couple other characters that have a little bit of a part in it. But this book, it was almost like Senlin took a backseat to the other people that were in this novel. I don't want to ruin anything about the book. I don't want to spoil anything. Maybe it does ruin it for you to hear that I hate it. I don't hate it. I just don't like it. And I felt it kind of contrived the way that he quickly works his way up this tower. It didn't feel slow and methodical anymore. I think this book is 4 books long. I almost feel like this series could have really excelled by making it a way longer series, and making each book about 3 or 4 different floors, and just continuing on that model for a long time. But it's like they wanted the plot to drive so quickly that they're having to, find these kind of contrived ways for him to go really, really fast through this tower. And I felt like that quick pacing kind of took away from that slow burn that first book was, that I thought it really benefited from. At a certain point in this book, Senlin just disappears for a while, and it's the rest of the people in the book that are the main characters. And at that point in the book, it was very boring and hard to get through. The Senlin plots were extremely boring, and the rest of the cast just didn't feel like the plot was going anywhere anymore. And it was very frustrating for me to read this a lot, because my hopes were so high after that first book. I thought this book series would really propel into one of my top book series, and it's moving in that bad direction. I'm going to keep reading this. I'm going to give it more time to continue this series. But if the third book is anything like the second book, I might just give up and not even read the last one, which I hate to do. I'm somebody that really likes to finish series, even if I'm not loving them. And to give up by the last book, maybe I'll read some like Goodreads reviews and see if the last book improved a little bit on the third, and maybe then I'd give it a shot. But right now, it's not looking promising. I want them to go back to what made that first book successful. There's another thing that I struggled with in this book is it was almost like not about Senlin trying to get his wife anymore. It was about the journey of one of his friends, and I didn't care about that journey very much. It didn't have this large epic scale. And by the end of the book, it was almost like what they had achieved by the end of the book was where they had left out at the end of the last book. So it didn't feel like we made a ton of progress. I get where they're going with it. There is kind of a large development in it with one of the side characters and what they, who they become in this book, and a bit of a character movement in terms of who he is in this world by the end of this book. So I guess maybe it could go in this nicer direction, but I'm certainly worried. I'm definitely not going to like recommend this book series to anybody until I read more of this. But hopefully you enjoyed this book more than me, which a lot of people did. On Goodreads, I think the first book got something like 4.1 average score, and the second book got a 4.4, I think, or thereabouts, which is a large jump. A lot of those jumps can sometimes be attributed to the fact that the only people that end up reading a second book are those who liked the first one. So you'll often see scores rise over time on something like Goodreads because, other readers have slowly fallen off. So maybe that's the case here. But, yep, those are my thoughts, and I certainly hope you enjoyed this book more than I did.